Good morning and welcome to Coffee with Alain. As you can see, we have a special guest today. Before I introduce him, I want to remind people, enjoylifesafely.com. That's the sponsor of this show, and where you can find all replays and you can find the audio podcast. While you're there, you can also download a free ebook on keeping yourself safe and get that newsletter every weekend with tips on staying safe, defending yourself, enjoying life, and being exceptional. This morning I got this cup. 50-year anniversary cup of Disney World. A couple years ago, my family went down there on the 50th anniversary of the opening of Disney World. Anything that's around for 50 years and going strong, something to celebrate. Well, our guest here started teaching martial arts before Disney World was open. He's got more than 50 years of teaching. They just retired from a school that was operating for 40 years. Pretty impressive. A huge martial art resume, which we're going to talk about some of that, but we're going to talk about other things too. So please welcome Super Dan Anderson back to the show. Thank you, Dan, for being here.
You betcha. And to rival your cup, I have my commemorative coffee cup, a big one here. Steve LaBounty, Bob White, John Sepulveda, Lee Wedlake, and it is the Steve LaBounty. Oh, there we go. Steve LaBounty Tribute Cup. This is my second cup. The first one broke, and I got lucky enough to get a second cup. But I remember Steve was a great friend, and Bob White was someone to really look up to, not only in the Kempo world, but overall in the martial arts world. So I have my big cup of coffee this morning to rival your big cup.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you being here. Jay, thank you for being here and saying good morning. Good morning to you, Jay. So congratulations on your retirement and the beginning of probably some new adventures, I'm sure. Just say a few words about what last week was like with the retirement ceremonies and testing and the stuff that you did last week as you wrapping up the 40 years of that school.
Yeah, I'll back it up beyond that because that it actually has a longer runway than that. But I'd been looking at the possibility of retiring probably for the last 2 years. And one of the things that probably the only thing that I regret about my competition career was that I stayed on too long. I fell into the same thing of I've got this momentum in competition, but my enthusiasm for it wasn't sticking with it. And so, as I like to put it, I went past like about 5 years, went past my shelf life, and I should have quit like 5 years earlier because after my heart wasn't into it, things went as expected. Some I won, some I lost, some I lost that I shouldn't have lost, et cetera, et cetera. And I didn't want to have that happen as an instructor. I think probably nothing's worse than an instructor who is bored, crabby, can't wait to get the heck out of the dojo, et cetera. And so I wanted to make sure that I didn't exceed my shelf life that way. So probably about 2 years ago, I started mentioning it to my wife. A year ago, I think she finally got tired of me mentioning it. She said, pick a date. It's like, oh, okay. And so when I picked a date, everything revolved around that date, including testing, training the last core or the last group of black belts, and then setting up the retirement party and like that. So when we got into the last week, I had one of the best tests ever. I mean, I cherry picked probably about 12 people who I thought deserved really just going for it. And I totally altered their training so that what they did was they ended up doing like some really hardcore, almost 1960 style training. I mean, it was just rugged. And then, so when we had the test, they were prepared, they were ready. And it was just a blast sitting there watching these guys. And then the last week, and I only have one other regret, which is I didn't get a photo of this, but the last week, instead of my master's belt, what I did was I wore my very first black belt. Now, I was a bit slimmer. I was like 145 pounds or so when I made my black belt. So, coming from the knot, the tags are like this long. Well, on me now, from the knot, the tags are about this long. I just get these itty bitty tags that are coming out from the knot of the belt. But I told my guys this is my first black belt, and just because I was coming full circle, I'd wear that. And then I surprised my black belt class. Because what I did was I did a little lottery. I had 11 people there. I said, okay, guys, pick a number. Now, on the back of the belt, I had a piece of tape with a number on it. And, so 1, 3, 5, 10, 11, 4. And when they hit the number 4, I'm kind of like, okay, this is the person who got it. Well, that kid's mother just happened to be there. And everybody calls the number. And I said, okay, wait. And I walked past and said, Stacy, Barrett is going to he's going to get his mind blown. What I didn't know was she started videoing it on her camera, on her phone camera. I go get the belt. I walk up and I go, Stacy, would you read the number of the belt? She looks like this, 4. Her son, who picked number 4, was like, and the face was priceless. And I gave him the belt, and he was just, and everybody's clapping and so forth. And then she sent me the video, which I didn't know she was taking the video. So I've got that moment. Then the retirement party. Oh, my goodness. The vibe of the retirement party was brilliant. It was camaraderie from start to finish. And I had several of my firsts there. My first teacher, Lauren Christensen, he showed up. He and Lisa's wife showed up. My very first black belts, 9,000 years ago, Tip Hands like Dennis Adair, they were there. My first black belts. When I broke off from the original school that I was with, Randy Thomas, he was there. My first black belt in the Gresham schools, Suzanne Riddell was there. I had students, I had friends, Fred King, who I've known, what is it, 1974, 2025, that's 51 years. Freddie was there. It was just, and I was, by the time it was time ready to leave, I was buzzing, just very, very amazed and excited that everybody came. And then I had to show up at school 8 o'clock the next morning to start clean out. Because all that stuff had to be moved because we have a tenant moving in. So,
Sure. That's going to be such a great story for those people that you awarded the belts last week, because 20, 30, 40 years from now, they're going to be able to say, well, back when I got this belt, it was Super Dan Anderson's last promotion. And so that's going to be really special for those folks as well.
Yeah, that's one of the things that one of the dads had. I hadn't thought of it that way, but one of the dads, we were talking, and he said, "Well, one of the things that makes it special is that this is the last promotion. You were in the last batch." And it's like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, they were in the last batch. Okay, so
that's going to be pretty special for them. So, looking back after 56 years of teaching, actually, and 40 at that school.
56 years total, yeah.
What are a couple, because I won't limit you to one, of the most rewarding aspects and things about that career of teaching?
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. One of the most rewarding things is getting emails out of the blue years later. I had one kid who, I remember he was 7 or 8 years old, and he wasn't like a world beater and that sort of thing. I find out later on that his training is what helped him in Afghanistan. There's another one kid who had made black belt, but he made junior black belt, very tough and very talented, where his dad would tell me that, one of the things that helped him become a dentist in the Navy was the training that he did in karate. And So, those are rewarding things. One of the other rewarding things is there's a guy by the name of Tim Gustafson, who was a very talented fighter, big guy, a guy you didn't want to run into his sidekick, because his sidekick, he chambered it, in the coin purse of his front pocket. That's how tight he chambered his sidekick. But to see him after stopping training with me, to see him continue on and develop his own voice as to what martial arts were, it's just, oh man, this is what I did. So there are, just a number of things. And then, oh man, my kids, I had 3 kids who tested, and 3 out of 6 wasn't bad. And to see each one of them test was just like a real. So
That's
those,
awesome.
those are just several little. I'd have to sit. It's an hour later for you than it is for me, so I'm usually barely functioning at this hour. Yeah, call me again about noon, and I'll tell you all sorts of great stories. 7 is not so good.
Jay said very cool. It's interesting that a couple of the things you said, like the martial arts helped him become the dentist and so forth.
Yeah.
What has this career in martial arts helped you with outside of the martial art world?
Well, I think the most important thing is it gave me a direction, because my family life, I did not know what a dysfunctional family was until I read about it later on, because my family life was my family life. The brothers and sisters didn't get along. Okay, I figured that much. We were all very different, all very scattered, and but I didn't have any kind of a direction. I was a failed baseball player, loved baseball, played it much better in my mind than I did with my body, and I was just kind of floating around until I started doing karate. And so once I got bit by the bug that way, I'm going to move just a little bit, keep me in the frame. My dog wants into this room. All right, you. Come on. There we go. So it gave, it gave me a direction. And one of the interesting things is that, going along with the baseball thing, is that it gave me, I keep using the word direction. It gave me a direction for, competition. I love the idea of competition. And, but I just went from there further on, et cetera, et cetera. And I think, people always talk about discipline. Oh, that discipline it gave you. And I think I'm one of the least disciplined people on the planet. If I don't have a goal, I'm just kind of floaty. But it really, excuse me, it was the first thing that centered me as an individual and allowed me to develop as an individual. And that took decades. I wasn't one of these overnight sensations as a human being. I might have been somewhat of an overnight sensation as a karate player, but as an individual, it took me decades. But the thing that was the constant in that was martial arts. So I would say that would be, that would be the thing. And it's funny because that's what I tell my guys on, their black belt test. The idea on the black belt is to take what they learn on the mat and take it out into the neighborhood, et cetera. I got that from Tom Callis. And, just using the black belt test as a metaphor for life. Whatever challenge that you come up against in life, I want you to sit back. I want you to look and go, my black belt test was tougher than that. So if I can do my black belt test, I can confront job, relationship, finances, whatever. So I think that's, bottom line, that's one of the things that I really got from martial arts was that, if I can face somebody like, let's say, Howard Jackson in the ring, or I can face Keith Vitale or Ray McCallum in the ring,
Yeah.
I can face some of these other things, because they aren't going to lay a whooping on me like Howard would, or Keith would, or Raymond would. So taking challenges in that context, I think that's what, I'm starting to ramble and repeat myself, but I'm getting text messages from my wife at the same time. Where I'm looking up, down, and so forth. So pardon the rambling of that answer. So
That's awesome. And I love that you mentioned Howard, phenomenal martial artist. And, I think I've told you before last time we talked that one of my prized books is a book that Chuck Norris signed. It's a Chuck Norris book,
yeah.
but Howard was there doing security for him, and nobody else in the place knew who Howard was. And I told my wife when we're in line, that's Howard Jackson. She's like, huh? I said, he's a great martial artist. And I looked through the book. Look, there's a picture of him and Chuck. So after Chuck Norris signed the book, I went over to Howard and introduced myself and had him sign the picture inside the book and just talked with him until the crowd was gone. And then we went back over to talk with Chuck some more. And so phenomenal martial artist and a really nice guy too.
Very nice guy. His personality outside the ring was not any reflection of him as a fighter. He was very fast, very strong, formidable, and then just out of the ring, just a great guy. Howard was, very special.
I mean, it's unfortunate we lost him early with the cancer. I mean, that's just But yeah, great fighter. I'm glad you brought him up because really super nice guy. I only got to meet him that one time, but really nice guy, and we had a nice talk while we were waiting for people to leave, and then go back and talk with Chuck some more. But so. I'm going to give you a softball here.
Okay.
What is something that you would like to share with people about what you're doing, about the martial arts? What is something that you would like to share?
If I was going to let's go the instructional route first. Before you become an instructor, let's find out if you're a people person. When I began teaching, I had a kids class, and I was teaching 1 day a week on Saturday, and I had to be probably one of the worst instructors that you ever met, people-wise. I had a great eye for detail. I was very technique oriented, and I was just terrible with people. And this really, another one, it took me decades to get. I remember my first wife, said, Danny, you can't hit the guys like that. I says, well, they hit me first. And then Marie says, Danny, you can't talk to the kids like that. Yeah, I can. So if you want to become an instructor, the first thing is that let's really, really, really see if you're a people person. If you're a people person, you'll make a much, much better instructor. And that one took me a long, long time to find out. Now, the other thing is that as a martial arts business owner, embrace the business end of it. I didn't like the business end of it. I was never big on calling students who hadn't been attending class lately, or going out and doing the advertising, et cetera, et cetera. I like being on the floor. I liked working with the guys. I liked whether it's training or sparring with the guys, it's wonderful. But the business end of it, and it doesn't have to be the thought of a McDojo, or a money grubbing enterprise, because there's absolutely nothing wrong with making a living out of something that you love. But you gotta embrace it, or you have to have somebody who will embrace it for you, like a business manager. So I would say those things. There's two people who are very good at this. Melody Johnson, who has the skills program, and then also Brandon Beliso with One Martial Arts. And they have got the business down pat. So they've got, what they love, but they also love the business end of it. Me, I was just the player, the player, the fighter, et cetera, who decided to run a school and tolerated the business, so to speak. And, and this is why I didn't end up with, 150, 250 students and many branches, et cetera. I had basically the mom and pop karate school, and it worked out, fine. But if somebody wants to make a living at it, make a decent living at it, because it can be done, uh, make sure you're a people person, make sure you run the business, and the only, not regret, but the only downside these days is that martial arts have become so well known in the society that we are now on the same playing field as soccer, baseball, wrestling, full contact underwater basket weaving, etc. Martial arts are no longer special in the eyes of the consumer. So you have to make it special once they walk in the dojo. But you're who you're competing against is the typical American sports, because now karate, taekwondo, judo, jiu-jitsu, which is the flavor of the last decade, we're all competing for the same clientele. So that's what I'd share with those guys. So there you go.
Awesome. Thank you. That's some great advice. I was sort of the same. I never wanted the business part. And so I taught out of a gym for 20 years, 20 some years until COVID. And then
Oh yeah.
the gym, it shut down. It opened back up a little as COVID was, but then the owner sold it.
Yeah.
And he couldn't find a buyer of the gym. A
Oh yeah.
church bought it, and the gym was closed.
Yeah.
And so since then, I haven't really been teaching. I go to a Taekwondo school a couple times a week with black belt students, and we train and play and do different stuff and keep our skills up and have fun. But I haven't been teaching a regular class since the gym closed. And I like that whole gym part, because I didn't have to worry about anything except show up, teach, go home.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And it's yeah, we're in the process of renting out the dojo space, and I totally forgot about, oh, well, there's city permits, there's building permits, there's occupancy permits, there's all this folderol, instead of open the door, walk in, lay out the mats, and and teach. Oh, and here's an interesting thing. Some people will probably cock their eyebrows at this. Is that, oh gosh, what was that? I think 10 years ago, thereabouts. Brandon Beliso, my little brother, who has big units down in the San Francisco area, he had put out on Facebook that he was getting these new tatami mats. And what was your favorite weapon to train with? Okay, Jay, I'll answer your question in a moment.
We can get that to next. Yep.
Yeah. He advertised that he was getting rid of all of his mats, these brilliant mats, because he was outfitting a school with new mats, right? So anyway, we jumped on that. I flew down there. We drove the U-Haul back. We laid out all these great mats. But I don't know how many thousands of dollars we saved because of Brandon's generosity. When I closed the dojo, I put the word out. I have a dibs list. If you want it, with the exception of the Arnis stuff, you've got it. So I had, one guy who runs the school, Mish Handworker, runs the school in Vancouver, Washington. Oh gosh, he made off with like 5 or 6 of the mirrors. Ortiz Harper, who just opened up a new school, all the mats. And then I had students, that, can I have this? Can I have that? Yes, you can. Go take it. Put it on the list. And it's kind of a little pay it forward type of thing, where,
Yep.
but also, I'm not stuck with, good, what do I do with the dojo full mats? So there's a practical side of it too. But that was one thing that was really nice. That was one thing I really, really liked, was that, okay, good, I could give this back. So
That's awesome. Yeah.
anyway, it's funny because this will segue beautifully into Jay's question. What was your favorite favorite weapon to train with? I'm going to change your question to, instead of was, to is, because even though I closed the dojo, I am keeping one class, and that is my Ernest class. And so the solo baston, roughly 28 to 30 inch stick, that is the primary weapon that I teach in Ernest. Now, yeah, that's my favorite. Now, why is that my favorite weapon? Well, it's more my favorite art, so to speak, to train and teach in, because the bottom line on RNS is development of the flow. And although I have this wonderful youthful look about me, I had to do that. I'm 72 years old, and so the ballistic actions of karate and taekwondo and Muay Thai and that sort of thing, or the flexibility that one would need, let's say if I was rolling around and grappling, it isn't there. But what keeps the body lubricated, my term, is the flow that's in RNS. And so that's number one. And then the RNS really interests me in terms of, okay, how can I get others to flow equally so and faster than before? And I just completed about a 2.5-year project where I totally revamped my teaching platform, and I had my first couple of black belts in December. Yeah, and they flow better than any of my previous students in RNS, and so it's just like, yeah. So I'll be teaching that one actually up at the local Taekwondo school. Hats off to Sam and Claire Leiter, who run the U.S. World Class Taekwondo school. They're very generously allowing me space one day a week. They're even opening up the class to any of their students that might want to train. So, heck, who knows? I might get even more RNS students. But a little bit long answer to your question. And hey, Tim, I see you just stumbled in. Howdy, howdy, howdy. If you have a question, go ahead and type it in.
Thanks for coming in, Tim, and saying hello. And Jay said super cool.
Yeah, I can see it right below the screen here. So,
yep. No, that is cool. I'm glad. I knew you'd still be teaching somewhere. You're going to be teaching until you die, because that's just sort of what's in us when we're in martial artists forever.
Yeah.
But we got to do something. And
well, there's an affiliate, a student of Dieter Knudel's in Germany. His name is Siegfried Wittwer, and he's an modern artist student of Dieter's, but he is also a long-term practitioner of Shotokan karate, and he has Hatfield in the North rules, my man. Obscure progressive rock reference. But anyway, Siegfried, he actually said it right, where he said that what I'll be doing is an active retirement, and it's like, yes, because what I'm doing is I'm retiring from running a dojo. But as I mentioned in a Facebook video, you haven't quite gotten rid of me yet. I'll still be teaching seminars. I just finished proofreading another book, number 42, I think it is, and I've got seminars that are already lined up. One in April, one in May. We've got the Modern Artist Legacy Camp in September, and then whatever else I will rustle up. So the thing is that I will still be active. Something like this is very, very hard to let go. It's just transitioning into a different phase of my activity. So,
what's the newest book?
What's it to you? You haven't bought the last book. Okay, you can tell I've woken up a little bit, because now I'm being a wise guy. The newest book is called Flow Like Water, And what it is, it's a white to black belt training plan in this particular training platform of Arnis that I mentioned about previously, about how to flow much earlier in your training and so forth. One of the things about Arnis, and I'm sure I'll probably tick a few people off, is that, in my opinion, Arnis is about 97% cool stuff and 3% combat. Now, what I mean by cool stuff is that, okay, you can get into wrist locks, cane locks, manipulations with the cane, this, that, and the next thing, where if you're looking at combat, what you're looking at is smacking the person with one good hard shot and either breaking the hand, doing a noggin conk, etc. So what I did was I took all the cool stuff and I put that after first grade black belt. So what you got is you got the flow, you got basics, you have one of the key points of modern Arnis that was taught to me by Remy Presses, which was the flow, but also if you can counter the counter. And the counter is like something he impressed upon me many, many years ago. We just happened to be talking in class, and he dropped this line on me. He says, Danny, if you can counter the counter, you'll not be beaten. Now, as a tournament competitor, which he knew I was, that really resonated, because when you look at all the different self-defense techniques that are taught, and this is whether it's karate or it's kenpo or taekwondo or et cetera, they all concentrate on the finish. You go ding a ding a ding a ding a ding, and your opponent goes down. And very few concentrate on, well, if you did, let's say, the backhand chop, what if the guy got his guard up at the right moment? Or what if the guy got his guard up and then he countered you? What would you do? And I've got a funny story on this that really, really exemplifies this, where I was staying a week at a friend of mine's house, and he had been trained by another teacher, and he was big on the finish. He'd do this technique, and he'd speed up, and he'd go bang, and I want him to slow down, so he could develop a little flow. And so I said, okay, wait a minute, let's get out the padded canes. So we got out the padded canes, and I go ahead and do this. And what I'd do is I'd counter the counter, and I'd whap him one, and I'd go, you don't want to do that. And this would continue on for 3 days. I would counter everything he did, and I'd smack him with the padded cane, and I'd just repeat, you don't want to do that. Then he finally got the idea, slow down, so that he could see that if I countered his counter, he would have to adapt and counter me right back. And then we spent the last 2 days really doing something meaningful. So this is something that I've stressed for years and years and years with my guys. And so the flow, counter the counter, basics, and then we'll get to the cool stuff later on. Arnis has a plethora of joint locks, but there's a phrase that I swiped from a good buddy of mine, Roland Rivera, which is all roads lead to armbar. Why do all roads lead to armbar? Well, that's when you talk about gross motor function under stress, that's the easiest one to do. That's the one that you can go by. I've appropriated that with all roads lead to kickback throw, which is the judo osotogari. And I was always wondering why my students under black belt test would always try and do the kickback throw in the most inappropriate moments. And it was, well, it's because that's the one gross motor function wise they could do. So in this particular teaching mode, there's 2 joint locks. One is the arm bar, and 2 is what do you do when the arm bar fails? And then 2 variations of the same throw, kickback throw against the lead leg. But what if you go against the rear leg? Well, there's a way of using it against the rear leg. And so all the cool stuff is after you make first grade black, then we can get into the manipulations and the doodle daddles and all the stuff that makes harness cool. But until then, it's basics, flow, counter to counter, and being able to execute no matter what position you're in, because that was the other phrase that Professor Remy would use. No matter where you are there already, which was really befuddling for the longest time. It's like, what do you mean? No matter where you're there already. It almost seemed like this Filipino version of a Zen koan. It's like this circular thing until finally the light bulb came on over my head. Anyway, long answer, as will happen when I'm awake and I'm talking. That is what the book is about. And it's also the third in a series of what I call visual readers, where I have explanatory videos up online. And so the pages are peppered with QR codes. So I've got the video stills, I've got the verbal explanations, but bam, you hit this with your phone, it takes you right to the video short on the same subject. So it's kind of a Y2K version of a book that allows for the technology of video to go along with printed media.
Nice.
Yeah.
And both Jay and Tim liked your little comment about the books.
Oh, good. Yeah, you guys, Super Dan online library, spend lavishly.
So is it superdanonlinelibrary.com? Is that where we go?
.com, yeah.
Okay.
But even if they just Googled up Super Dan online library, bang, it'd pop up.
You'll find them. And that
see, and now I've seen their names. I'll see if they buy something. Right. If they don't buy something, I have a couple of dogs. We will hunt you down, and they're friendly dogs, so they'll probably lick you or something. But there you go.
Tim's a book hound, so he'll be checking that out.
Yeah, I think Tim's bought some stuff from me, so I'll use him in my advertisements. Anybody who likes books and Hatfield in the North can't be bad, not at all.
Right.
He knows where I live. Okay, well I bet you don't. You probably don't know Bridalveil, but anyway, there you go.
So, excuse me. Where can people get a hold of you if they're looking for seminars and to book you or those kind of things?
My email address is probably the best one. And it's just basically my full name, Danny Lee Anderson @hotmail.com. You can message me through the library website. That works as well. If you post up later on my phone number, which is 503-317-8779, I answer all the calls, even the scam ones, and because you never know who might be calling. But if you're trying to sell me something, or I'll probably hang up pretty quickly. But I take all the calls, I answer all the emails. So if anybody wants to tag with me that way, that's probably the easiest way. I think probably the online library, excuse me, might be the easiest. But like I said, I answer all the emails, I answer all the phone calls, and that's whether they want a service, like a book or an email, or if you have a question, because one of the things that, and I mentioned this, I believe, in the last interview that we did, was that my seniors, so you get guys like Howard and Jeff and Bill. Notice the first name basis thing. Professor Remy, etc. Chuck. All these guys.
Lauren.
Lauren. All these guys were like so generous with a kid that pestered them, with endless questions that I can't do anything but that. I can't do anything but help anybody along. So, it doesn't even matter if you think it's like a stupid question or a question that I've been asked 7,500 times before, because if it's something that you want to know, something that you haven't answered for yourself, or somebody hasn't answered, then you just kind of go, okay, excellent. Give me a buzz, tag with me. And because one of the things that I've done is that I have satisfied every single. I'll answer you in a second, Tim. I've answered every single question regarding martial arts to my satisfaction. So I have an opinion on everything. And okay, so Tim Bollert is asking, how's the stick working out? Okay, so anybody who isn't a musician might be thinking that, okay, didn't we just talk about harness? Okay, uh, a stick is a guitar-like instrument which can be anywhere from 10 to 12 strings, but instead of going pick, 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 you tap. And so you've got like this. And so what I did was I bought an inexpensive offshoot because I wasn't going to spend $3,000 on a stick. And instead I bought a lower grade instrument from, let's see, a company. There we go. A company called, and honest, it's called Crappy Guitars, Krappy, and it's this guy in North Dakota who builds them, custom builds. Spent $850 plus another $150 on shipping. Okay, I've dropped more money in a really bad car than that, so I think, okay, I could try that out. And so he's asking, how is it coming along? It's coming along slowly because I have no musical training. I took some video lessons to learn how to basically manipulate. And then what I did was I veered off of those to actually start learning tunes. Now, if you look at people on, let's say, YouTube, and you learn, you watch them playing what's called, when Tim calls it the stick, it's the proper term is Chapman stick that was invented by a guy by the name Emmett Chapman. What you'll see is these guys, and see if I can get myself in camera. Okay. Their right hand will be over here playing a melody line, and the left hand will be playing either chords or a bass line, and they'll be doing both hands going, and it's just this incredible manipulation. I'll watch these guys and I will hate them at the same time because I can't do that. What I basically do is I just, follow a melody line. So if you picture on a piano, taking one finger and going ding a 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 ding, that's kind of what I do. But that being said, I've taken on some brutal challenges. One of the things I did was I started taking on the tune, "The Reigns of Castamere" from Game of Thrones. I thought, simple tune, this ought to be good. And I learned all this by ear. So I have the tune. I've got a program called WavePad, and I'll take segments out and then I'll slow it down and I'll match with the fingering what the tunes are, etc. I'll take about 8 notes, and I'll go ding a ding a ding and so forth. So I started that out, and then for whatever reason, I think it's because I saw this guy do this. I started working on a Bach cello prelude. Boy, that was really brilliant. Well, the first several notes sounded pretty easy, boom, 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 and nice and repetitive, until I got to this one point where I'm too committed. I can't stop. This is going to be really overcoming this incredible challenge, and it's funny because I was tagging with another stick player or war guitarist, Trey Gunn, who used to play with King Crimson, who's been, like I said, seniors that are answering questions. This guy's just perfect. And he said that, and he also does Aikido, and he's doing BJJ now. And he says, he looks at the Bach preludes as like training in kata. Oh, okay, good. I can't find a rhythmic note. Where's the rock and roll in Bach? Well, there's no rock and roll in Bach, but it's like training in kata. Okay, that I can think with. So, what I've done just recently, see, my wife is out of town. She's down in Los Angeles for about a week. And so in this first year, I've gotten through the first half of the cello prelude. Well, I finally started assaulting the second half. And I'm working with several other tunes. but it's all basically melody stuff. My goal for this year is to start adding counterpoint notes while I am playing. The counterpoint will challenge you. No shit, Sherlock. It certainly is. So it will be incidental notes as opposed to, like every 4 or 5, digga, 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 oink, digga, 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 oink. And I will build up to it. But I'm not looking to join a rock and roll band. I don't even play in front of my wife. I get terrible stage fright when I put a phone in front of me to record what I'm doing. I will hit more sour notes per square yard if I've got the phone in front of me. But it's something I enjoy, and if I ever get any good enough to actually play in front of somebody or play with somebody, because I've got an old karate student who is just brutal on guitar. And then my number one, he's been doing guitar for about 3 years, and we keep talking about, we got to get together. That'll be the next step. But very long answer, Tim, but it's going slowly, but I do like it. It's past the 1-year test because I was going to give it a year. And if I bailed, okay, $850, not a big deal. But I still like it. I still like the challenge. And so that's how it's coming along.
That's great. And he said he liked the analogy with the kata, which is.
Yeah. Well, we're raised up, we're raised up with rock and roll. I forget how old you are, but, when I'm raised up with Elvis in his latter years, the Beatles, the Dave Clark Five, early Rolling Stones, the Animals, Yardbirds, the Kinks, the Who, there's this real rock and roll type of thing. And there's no way that you can do a 4/4 drum beat to Bach. And James Jamerson, who did all the bass work on the Motown stuff, is not going to fit with it. So, but the manipulations, Tim, you're born in 69. I was born in 52. So, well, there you go. But the training of, and it's here's the funny thing is that the second half is going so much faster than the first half, probably because I trained on the first half. Yeah, I've got some of the basics down as to how to jump from one string to the next, or. So, it's Bach, cello, prelude, kata, number 1.
Nope, that's awesome.
Yeah.
No, he was born in 55, so he is 69 years old. Yep. So you're both older than me. I'm a young guy. I was born in 67, so I'm only 58.
Well, see, I can still call both of you children, because anybody younger than me, I can call them a child, and anybody older, I say sir or ma'am. So that's how I rate things. You guys are kids.
Well, we've got almost an hour. Why don't we sort of start wrapping this up? And just what else would you like to tell folks? Either about retirement, about where you're going, about whatever you like.
Okay. Well, where I'm going, I'm transitioning into working in my wife's quilt shop. I will be the world's deadliest quilter. Thank you very much. And she has a very successful quilting business. And what I will be doing, she has 2 machines. One is a manual. So if you figure drawing with thread, so she's maneuvering the head. And then there's a computerized, what's called long arm. And that's what I run. And it's so totally different than running a dojo. It actually harkens back to when I was a printer, because I worked for a local supermarket chain in their printing department for 24 years while I ran the dojo. And so it's much closer to that, which is why I've been able to step into it, except there's a lot of intricacies as far as quilting that I had to learn. But I will be transitioning into that. So my long running joke of no matter what rank you are, your wife outranks you. Well, she not only outranks me, but now she's the boss. So that's what I'll be doing there. I will be continuing projects. Usually when one book finishes in my mind, the doorway opens for another one. And so now that I'm wrapping up this one, who knows exactly what's going to go bang and open up. So, but gosh, what was it? A month and a half ago, I decided, okay, let's see what the next 20 years look like. So I've got plans at least to last till 92. Up until then, my pop, I think he died early age. My mother, way too early, young 50s. But I'd never made a decision one way or the other. Okay, how long am I going to last? I figured, okay, let's give it another 20 years. So I got 20 years of rock and roll and this and that and playing and stick swinging and writing and quilting. And, so what I won't be doing is I won't be sitting back in the recliner binge watching Oprah and eating bonbons. So I'll still be busy.
And that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on Coffee with Alain. We'll have to have you back sometime, and maybe we'll bring you back and we'll just focus on one aspect of, one of your books of, some martial art concepts for that, or
Okay.
maybe we'll bring you back and we can talk about quilting. I mean, whatever, we'll do some stuff, but it's always a pleasure having you on. So I really appreciate you joining us this morning, especially I know it's early for you being on the coast over there. But thank you very much. And thank you to everybody that watched and asked some great questions and participated. Thank you to everybody that's listening on a replay or listening to the audio podcast as well. Appreciate all of you guys. So thank you much, Dan.
You bet. And any of you guys out there, feel free to reach out to me. Like I said, I'm available. Super Dan Online Library or Danny Lee Anderson at hotmail.com. I take every email. I take every communication. I always answer. I could do no less. So there you go.
And that is awesome that you're giving back so much, Dan. It's great. I'm sure it's greatly appreciated to the countless people you've helped and trained and mentored throughout the years. And you're just going to keep doing it.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody. We will see you tomorrow. Go out and make it a fantastic Friday.